Hey, how's it going? Mike from Mike Rolls Dice, and today we're going to be putting together the Stahltruppen Heavy Infantry. But what I really wanted to show you is how you can actually get additional miniatures off of these sprues, which is a little bit of work with some green stuff. So these are the Stahltruppen sprues here from the starter set. We covered the starter set in our unboxing video. And I put together all the American miniatures and I'm working on the German ones here. So you can see these are the new plastic German Stahltroopers in Mark II power armor, I believe. So they're actually toughness 7. They're pretty chonky boys. And the detail's really nice on them. Just kind of showing you a variety of some of the models I've put together here. A variety of the assault rifles, the LMGs, and one of the anti-tank weapons, which you're going to see here. So now on the sprue, you actually get enough of everything to make 5 Stahltruppen because they give you 2 extra legs, they give you extra arms, extra heads. The only thing you're missing is the torso section and the little chest plate. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and maximize the amount of minis we can get off of this sprue by just doing a little bit of hard work and kind of diving into the world of green stuff and really for the first time trying to sculpt with green stuff. So you can see the torsos here, how they fit to the body. This torso section is what we're going to be trying to replicate as best we can. Now, I will say I have very minimal experience with green stuff, so this was a good excuse to kind of try my hand at sculpting. You can go as far as you want as sticking a blob of green stuff on there and sticking the arms and heads, or you can try and make the torso like I did. But you can see the extra legs we get here. So out of the starter box from the 2 sprues, you're supposed to be able to make 6 Stahltruppen. We're going to have 10 Stahltruppen at the end of this video. So you can see here the extra arms. I'm just going to essentially use whatever LMGs and SMGs are left over and whatever heads I like. This is a closer inspection of the torso section here. There's a little armor plate that glues to it. You know, there is quite a lot of detail in there. It was a little daunting at first. I'm like, man, how am I going to sculpt this? But you'll see you don't need to get a perfect one-for-one replica, because once they're all painted up, you can actually make them look battle scarred. They actually look pretty good. What I like to think is we're making maybe perhaps earlier iterations of this armor that's a little bit rougher around the edges. So you can see here we have some green stuff and we have some sculpting tools. Green stuff is a 2-part epoxy putty that you can actually mix together. I believe it's epoxy. One thing you need to do is you need to have a cup of water around while you're working with it because it will stick to your hands and stick to the tools. So you can see the green stuff here. One thing that I found with this Army Painter green stuff, I believe this is, there are these hardened sections. You want to cut the area where the green and the yellow meet, because a lot of times that will be hardened itself. For some reason, there seems to be these hard outer plates, if you will, or the outside of the green stuff on the blue and the yellow seem to harden. So I'm actually going to try and get as much of this hardened putty off before we mix it together, but you'll see here in a sec. So the reason why we rip off this center piece here is because this is where the 2 parts meet. A lot of times they'll have that chemical reaction and harden up. But you can see here there's these hardened areas on this green stuff. I think this green stuff maybe was just old or it's been sitting around for a bit or something like that. So I think that's the reason. Keep that in mind because you will find chunks of these if you don't clean it up enough. But with high quality green stuff, I don't think it should be an issue. So now wetting my fingers here, you can see is pretty important. We already started getting some of this stuff stuck to our fingers. So I'm going to wet my fingers here, and I'm just going to start kneading this together or blending it. I think probably the best way to do it is twist them together. But I'm just going to knead this together here until we get until all of the green stuff's mixed up and we get a nice even consistency. You can see here we have some of this leftover yellow putty that was hardened. So this is one of the reasons why I had to separate that stuff. But you shouldn't have to deal with that if you have high quality green stuff. I think this was sitting around for a while. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking a ball of green stuff and I'm trying to get the right proportions to the torso, just adding a little bit more material if I need to. I just add a little bit more of this putty if I need to. And I'm just going to kind of shape it into a general cylinder shape, if you will, like the torso, so I can start working with it. You can see here it's a little high because of the ridge where that collar is, so I'm actually going to rip a little bit off. You're just going to take your time and try and replicate it as best you can. Now that we got this down to the scale that we want to match the torso, we're going to actually work on that collar after. We're going to add green stuff and try and build it. What I'm going to do here is attach it to a base, just so I can work with it a little bit easier, so it's not constantly moving around and getting stuck to my fingers. What you'll see later on is that pretty much taking this and sticking it to the torso directly is almost the same thing, but I wanted to put this on the base here so I could really work with it and kind of get an idea how I was going to sculpt it. But you can just attach these to the torsos and it pretty much is the same thing. Otherwise, I'm going to work on the base here and then just cut this off with an X-Acto knife when I'm done. So now adding a little bit more green stuff to get the right thickness to the body. Whatever we're trying to replicate with the green stuff, it's good to have it nearby so I can constantly take a look. I did a little shaping to the body, but it was just preliminary so I could see where the front is. And now I have a thin piece of green stuff I'm going to attach to kind of build the collar section of the body. Because what you see is the head is recessed inside the power armor. So just taking this and adding this on and kind of trying to get the shape somewhat right. Now the thing is the green stuff's going to be moving around while you're working with it, so you're going to have to constantly go back and kind of touch things up. It just depends how detailed you want to be. So what I did is I thought maybe we would make the plate and stick it on afterwards. Really what I'm doing now is just adding some more bulk to the front so I can work with it. But I'm going to show you how we form the shape of the angles of the armor, this like kind of classic German armor look. So I thought maybe I could use the metal tool and press it and try and get the right shape, but what we're going to do is we're going to use the flexible section of our modeling tool here. And essentially what you're going to do is you're going to push down from the top and then pull up. So you're constantly pushing down and then pulling up. And what you're doing is you're like depressing that epoxy and then pulling it out. And you'll see after doing this over and over and over again and kind of working on the shape, we're actually going to get somewhat of an angular profile to it. And again, every now and then you may need to go back and work on some things. I realize at this point I maybe shouldn't work too hard on the front tier because I am going to have to do other stuff. So I'm just trying to get that angular shape of the armor, but you'll see here we're going to work up that angle later on. So again, I realized I should probably put the front section of the collar or some of the accessories first. So underneath along the back side of the collar that goes on the power armor, there's like lights. There seems to be some lights or something that's attached. So I'm just going to add like a little accessory to the collar here with these little balls here, just to give it some detail. And now the front section of the power armor. Again, there's kind of like the head is recessed in the power armor, so it's kind of shielded from the back, and it does have a little bit of shielding in the front for the helmet. So we're just going to build up this collar section to give us some more detail. All right, so what we're gonna do here is there's a backpack section. I don't know if there's some sort of like reactor or some sort of power system, and there's like an exhaust system off the back. So we're gonna add some cylinders shapes to the back here, make some little straps, and then add some detail with some of our modeling tools to it. So now you can see this is after kind of working the putty a little bit more, but I'm just going to have to spend some time here and push and pull, and try and get that angular shape. So you can see here a little bit more in detail of how I'm doing this. It's kind of hard to see, but with the light reflection, you can see we are getting some nice angular shape to it. And now I did add some pieces to the sides for the arms to stick into. You can see right here. So while the putty's still malleable, we can add the arms. So now I figured out after, it's probably just easier to just take the green stuff, like the shape of the body that we want and the right height, and just add it to the torso and then work it on with our modeling tool. I'm sure you could probably drill, add wire, would probably be like the right way of doing this, but honestly, I think for just this torso section, it's completely fine. They seem to be very durable, so I don't think I have any issues with it like falling apart in the future or something, but... So just ripping and tearing, getting that material to the right shape that I'm looking for to where I can start working with it. And then when I'm happy, I'm going to take the flexible end of my modeling tool and just start working that green stuff in to try and get it a nice smooth transition. I did end up losing some of the detail on some of the belts and stuff like that, so if you're trying to be extra careful, you can probably get a much more cleaner appearance, but but I'm quite happy with how easy it was to attach the torsos here and just do a little bit of work to get a nice clean transition. So now building the collar section again. Same sort of process that we did last time. I just wanted to show you what it's like working on the torsos. It almost is a little bit easier, to be honest with you. Maybe later on when we have more details, it gets a little trickier, but whenever you add a piece of green stuff, you could take your soft end of the tool, wet it slightly, and kind of work it in so you can get a little bit more of a natural blend to it. So this is after working the body section to try and get some angular shape to it. Again, pushing and pulling, and getting that sort of bulging angular shape to the power armor that you see in the front. It's something that you're going to have to... I literally had to learn it while I was doing it. I saw a video that somebody did a while back. I was looking up how to make essentially my own miniatures for Turnip 28, which is something I'm going to do in the future. And I saw this method of producing this angular shape. It's something you're just going to have to learn by just messing with the green stuff. So this is really the most green stuff work I've ever done, to be honest with you, in terms of modeling, if you will. It's even though it's in the very basic sense. And again, the soft side of the modeling tool is really nice for kind of working with the green stuff, not only blending it, but also kind of manipulating it, and it doesn't stick to it very easily. So I think it's silicone or something. So you can see here adding the pieces on the side. This is going to give us like a bulge for the pockets of the arms to sit on. You'll see here there's the pocket, and you can essentially kind of push that arm onto that little putty pocket that we made, and the arms will have a nice secure base to it. You'll see constantly kind of remanipulating the green stuff, so just be careful not to push down or touch with your fingers the areas that you worked on, because you will end up with either fingerprints or depressions. So I'll put my other arm on here, and then you can kind of squeeze the body ever so slightly and make sure those arms are nice in place. You have about an hour or so, or maybe 30 minutes to work on the miniature before it really starts hardening it up. And one of the good things I will say is the arms and the shoulders take up so much room and space that you actually end up covering a lot of the body that you made. So you really just see like the back section where those exhaust pipes were, and the angular front section and the collar. So you don't need to worry about if it, it doesn't need to be perfect, right? And especially once you paint these up, you'll see what I ended up doing is just adding some battle scar damage to the armor by just poking and prodding at it and adding some scrapes like some of the Ursus Bear infantry, attack them. So they could be older Mark II power armors that were damaged, but they had to use in an emergency, for instance. Just another look into how I shaped that angular. That one I think came out much better. So it's just something that it takes time to manipulate the green stuff by pushing and pulling to get that sort of armor profile we're looking for. So now you can see we have 10 Stahltruppen out of 2 sprues, which would have originally been 6. And it only took me about probably like 2 hours to do this, and this is while filming, so this is really my first time ever doing this sort of green stuff work as well. But I wanted to show you, they aren't perfect, right? They aren't pretty, but guess what? We have 10 Stahltruppen now instead of 6, so I'm very happy about that. You can see the variations that we came up with, the torsos and all the arms. So for now, let's take a look at how these guys came out invading my backyard. So I gotta say, I'm really happy with how these turned out. Sure, if you have the modeling skills, I bet you could probably get them looking pretty spot on. But, and the other option I wanted to touch base on is you could probably just 3D print torsos. You could find torsos that are relatively similar size, perhaps, and with a little bit more green stuff work, you can have a much nicer looking torso section. But I wanted an excuse to kind of get a little bit better with working with green stuff and modeling, and also not everybody has a 3D printer. So I wanted to show you how you could pick up some green stuff online or from your local craft store and get the most out of your Stahltruppen box. You can see here these are primed up, and once you prime them up, I mean, I put them next to each other, and unless you really look at them close enough, I mean, they look great. You can see I added some battle scar damage by just kind of poking some holes and chipping at it and adding some scrapes, and I'm really happy with how these turned out. So they do look a little wonky. I think what I'm going to do is paint them like the rest of the infantry, but then add rust and kind of damage to the areas. Well, hopefully you enjoyed and you learned something here. Again, I'm not the best modeler or the best sculptor, if you will, but I'm pleased with these. And we have a new battle report that we're going to be filming here soon on the channel with these Axis troops. So thank you so much. My name is Mike from Mike Rolls Dice. Hopefully you enjoyed. We have all sorts of different videos here on the channel, from Konflikt 47, Trench Crusade, one-page rules, the bolt action, everything from battle reports to building and painting miniatures. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck on your next Konflikt games, and as always, keep rolling high on those dice.